2013, Friday, October 18th. And it's a gorgeous day here in South Boston. I'm over at Sullivan's. I don't know how this works when I've got it turned around me. There's, of course, Fort Independence, Castle Island behind me. And I'll just swing this around to give you guys a little perspective, a little panorama. And they're coming right back to me. Now you're wondering, what the hell am I doing on with the Hellman's hat? Well, somebody gave me this because one of my big stories, in fact, I actually posted this on my blog the other day. One of the big stories of my life was the day I met this gal. My favorite sandwiches in the world are tuna, lettuce, tomato, and onion. And I'm way up in the North Country, coming back from a gig I did up in the Balsams, and looking for a sandwich. Now, if you've never been to the North Country in New England, it is almost impossible to find a good sandwich. Just don't believe in it. And so I'm famous this one day, and I stumble in to buy one of those. I found out what the difference is between sandwiches. There are three major sandwiches. If you never thought of this, I have. Because one day, I experienced a hate sandwich. I went into a little place, well, they're national, I think they're national, but at least they're certainly in New England, they're predominant. I'm not going to say the name of the company. It begins with a D, ends with an O, apostrophe S, and there's something like an angel in between. Got the worst, order my favorite sandwich, tuna, lettuce, tomato, onion. I come out, it's a rainy, terrible March day, windy, raw, starving for the sandwich. Open it up, and what did I get? Mayonnaise with, no, I got tuna without the mayonnaise, no lettuce, I'm sorry, there were a couple of pieces of brown lettuce, and a mangy tomato. That's the only way I can describe the mangy tomato, and tons of onions, and that's it. So I'm looking at this dry, and I realize it hits me. The main word that hits me is hate. Whoever made this sandwich hated making it. Hence, I entitled it a hate sandwich. So now think of this. I always ask this to audiences. I said, would I go back? Would you go back if this happened to you? And everybody universally answers no. Why? Because you can only imagine if I give this back to the person that made it in the state that they're in, at the time that they're in, what are they going to do to it when it's out of my sight? Yep. You can only imagine. You've heard the stories. So I said, I'll bear with it. And I managed to pick out some parts that were at least a tiny bit nutritious. Okay, as I'm thinking about this, now I've got a hate sandwich registered in my head. So there's a point of reference. The second thing I'm thinking is, I kind of had an idea what a love sandwich would be, but I hadn't really encountered it yet, not knowing that I really had. But forget that. So I found out what indifferent sandwiches are. Those are those sandwiches we've all had. You go into the deli in a gas station, and they're in the refrigerated section there, and they're those little triangles. And I call those indifferent because you're never really excited about one of those, are you? You don't look, oh my God, look at this, ham and rye on a pumpernickel that's been here for 6 days. No, and they're universal, they pumped out, looks like a machine did them. So whoever made the sandwich certainly didn't put a lot of love into it. I don't think they put a lot of hate into it either. There was just a lot of indifference. And that's kind of your reaction when you're doing it, a lot of indifference. It fills a hole. So one day I encountered an amazing love sandwich. I'm coming down the road, I'm starving out of my mind, thinking, oh my God, I'm in the North Country. I'm never going to get a great sandwich. I walk into this roadhouse. Place is ready to fall down. And I head immediately for that little refrigerator to get one of those triangle sandwiches. And guy from the counter says to me, can I help you? And I said, yeah, I'm looking for a sandwich. He goes, you got to go upstairs for those. So I head up the stairs, and sure enough, there's a little gal sitting in this really dusty, I can't even call it a room. And she's sitting there, and she jumps up with such enthusiasm, it kind of shocked me. And I'm like, well, this is unusual for the United States of America. Somebody who's kind of happy to serve you, to be happy to help you. And she gives me one of these, can I help you, sir? And I said, yeah, with some kind of discernment. I said, I'm looking for a sandwich. She goes, yeah, what kind? Lettuce, tomato, onions? Sure, she says. Now it starts. This is not your normal story about a sandwich. This was a show. This woman understood showmanship. So she looks at me and says, what kind of bread you want on that? And I'm like, choice bread? Okay. Whole wheat? Sure. You want that toasted? I'm like, my God. Now she's really got my attention. I'm going to get a toasted bread at least. Puts the toast in, boom, pops over to this little refrigerator that my mother used to have when I was growing up a kid. That thing had to be 40 years old. Little tiny refrigerator. Reaches in there, takes out a little tin, and starts stirring it around. And what's in there, of course, is the tuna fish. And I'm like, oh my God, this is like the old days. Puts it down, goes over, gets a head of lettuce out of the refrigerator, goes over, peels off each little layer of lettuce, each leaf, and washes it, and not only washed it, but patted it dry. And I'm like sitting in amazement. My toast is in the toaster. She's washing down the lettuce. The toast comes out. She lays down the first leaf of lettuce, starts taking the tuna fish. She lays that down, goes over. It was August, harvest time. She takes out this huge tomato, puts it down right in front of me. Again, showmanship. She's not only got the enthusiasm, the energy, the passion for making the sandwich, she's got the showmanship. Puts it down right in front of me on the counter and starts slicing it. I'm watching this juicy red tomato with the seeds pouring out of it, dripping on the counter, and I'm salivating. I'm so hungry. I'm like, oh my God. I'm watching a masterpiece. Does the same thing with the onion. Goes over, lays it down, the tomato, then the onion. This is the best part. Notice that she's asking questions the entire time. Ultimate salesman, asking me questions. What do I like? Concerned about how I like my sandwich. Holding the last piece of toast. She's got the last piece of toast in her hand, and she says to me, and you see, I love bring out the best, right? Would you like a little extra mayonnaise? At this point, I don't even know what to say. I'm breathless. Yes! I said, yes, I would. And sure enough, she lays the extra mayonnaise, puts it down. She doesn't even take that like white paper and wrap it. No, she gets tin foil. And she takes this, I can still feel the heat from the toast, this big bulging sandwich, and puts it down and passes it over the counter. And I'm like, I'm speechless. I don't know what I tipped her, but I know it was probably equivalent to what the sandwich cost. It took me an hour to eat that sandwich in the car. I kept looking at this masterpiece. Beautiful, thick, big, beautiful sandwich. And now, the thing I want to say is that it's probably been 15 years since I've had that sandwich. I'm still talking about that sandwich on that day. And I always ask people, do you think that gal is like successful no matter what she's doing in life? I do. Because obviously she had oomph. She had pizzazz. She had passion. She knew that making sandwiches, which was what she did well at that time, and she put everything she had. And the most important ingredient, she put love into it. And I always ask my audiences, what was the best sandwich you ever had in your life? And they all say the same thing. Peanut butter and jelly. And guess who made it? Their mother. And I said, why was it the best sandwich? They said, because she put love into it. And I'm going to tell you this. It doesn't matter if it's a sandwich, a fax, an email, a text, a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Whoever gets it, who's ever on the receiving end of your post to Facebook or whatever, knows, without a doubt, what you put into it. They know whether you hated the post or the sandwich or whatever you were doing, were indifferent, or you loved it. So, please, do yourself a favor, and everybody else around you. Bring out the best.